Melissa's smeller back.
Yes.
Smeller back.
Smeller, I like that.
Yeah,
I
you're
like
welcome.
that.
You're welcome.
Hey, we can let them go in here if she won't smell it. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, you might hot box in here, so it could get really strong, and then I would smell it.
The camera's fogging up.
The difference is, Peter, I can smell it. Okay. So.
Yeah, your friend can smell it.
I'm like, oh.
I did have menudo for lunch.
What up, everybody? It's your girl, Melissa. Woo woo, y'all. It is Friday, and it's an amazing day. It's windy out there. I don't know what's happening. I walked outside thinking I was all great, sun in my face, and then all of a sudden, hold on, I'm scooting in so you can hear me. Can you hear me clear? Check one, check one. Okay. Just making sure you were paying attention. I was making sure that you were sure that I was sure that you were paying attention, okay? Anyway, the wind was blowing, and then I just went all over the place, and I flew right here into the studio. And, and y'all, it's been a fantastic day, and I have some amazing guests with me today. So before I introduce them, I want you to hit that like button, hit that share button, because there's going to be some great information. And as you know how the Facebook algorithm works, you can let other people see by hitting that like, comment, share, so other people, other than just yourself, can get that great information about what's going to be shared today. So without further ado, okay. These are my guests. I'm going to turn the spotlight over to them, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, tell them a little bit about themselves, and I'm going to let you take over.
Great. Well, thank you, Melissa. Again, thank you for the opportunity to have us on your show. Thank you for those that are tuning in, for checking us out today. We really, truly appreciate it. My name is Peter Orozco. A little bit about myself is born and raised in Santa Barbara County, California. Moved out here in 1996 with my folks. Been a native of Denver ever since 1996. Love this place. You know, did a stint for maybe 15 years with Verizon in corporate America. Then maybe 8 years ago or so, I jumped into the financial sides, and you know, going on our 9th year now of really just getting out there from an educational standpoint, and really just helping people understand and kind of navigate through things like retirement planning, estate planning, and really just ensuring that when you're done with work, you're done. You don't have to get back. You don't have to, in your 70s or worse in your 80s, go get a job to make it through retirement. So that's our, you know, it's our passion. Mm-hmm. Something we're very passionate about, helping people. We take an educational approach to it, consultative approach, if you would, and it's been great.
Awesome. Well, I'm Houston Owens. I'm Peter Orozco's business partner. We've been working together for about 4 years now, and we started Growth and Wealth and Growth and Wealth Financial. And we're just here really to impact families. And my heart is just helping people. I'm a dad of 5 beautiful girls. They're getting older now, so they're starting to get into the drama years. Yeah, but I still have the young ones. They're twin 8-year-olds, and my oldest is about to turn 14 on Sunday. So an absolute blessing, and it's great. But there's a lot of needs out there, and especially for families. And so, as Peter said, we look at retirement as an option, but we also look at what can we do to help protect families as they're young, you know, and young families. Starting at 30, we have some things out there to just protect our families. And so that's our heart. And really our mantra is that we want to live the legacy, but we want to leave the inheritance to our families and to our kids. And so that's really what we're all about. And I'm native here to Colorado. And yep. Not
like
very
a real native.
Actual real. I actually ran into a guy the other day that said, well, I've been here since the 90s. And I'm like, you're still an imposter. So, still an imposter. But anyway.
An implant.
You're absolutely an implant.
I'm an implant.
Yeah, you are an implant.
So 2 in the studio are real, and 1's an implant.
Even more so, because he's from Cali. We know about those drivers.
Uh-oh, come on.
And he's a Raiders fan.
Oh, see, that was.
Yikes, that might
We might
hurt.
have to kick him out. Okay, y'all, scratch that. Earplugs. Put your earmuffs on. Well, I'm super excited, guys, and as you know, I only bring you the best on here on Ignite with Melissa. And if you are like me, a lot of the times we don't understand a lot of financial things, right? We never were grown up and taught that with our money, how it works. And even right now, even at my age, because I'm still young, hello, okay. I ain't aging myself. You almost thought I was going to tell you, okay? But even at my still young age, okay, you know, I didn't know a lot of stuff. And as I shared with you guys in the post, I learned a lot of great stuff from Peter just recently. And it's very educational, very informative, and stuff that we don't get to learn. And so take the opportunity today, if you know somebody, tag them in the comments, bring them in, because, and if you have any questions, we're going to be able to answer them. We can see you guys logging in. So hello, Michelle. We got Callie in the house. Michelle, Paul Aragon. We got Ramon Barrera. Hello from Michigan. Anna Mia from New York. Luis. We got everyone in the house today and more people tuning in. And so thank you guys so much for joining in. And so, yes, guys, ask questions. They are here to help you out, give you information. And so I'm going to just turn it over to them because they have a lot of stuff for you today and you don't need to hear me. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over the spotlight and I'm going to let you guys take over.
Great.
Thank you, Melissa. So to Melissa's point, you know, there's financial education is something that's scarce here in America. I think it's funny that, you know, when we go through elementary school, and in elementary school they teach us how to write checks, how to balance a checkbook.
I read it and get taught.
Well, at my school, little Oakley school in Santa Maria, California, they taught us how to write a check. And, you know, it's like they're always teaching us how to pay debt, right? How to write a check, don't be late, this is how you pay bills. Now they're teaching a lot of the kids how to invest in stock market. And, you know, it's getting a little better, but for the most part, financial education is a rarity. You know,
Yeah.
the schools, colleges don't really teach it either unless you're taking classes on finances or you're going for a financial degree. So, you know, I think it's important. You know, obviously there's a lot of potholes to avoid out there. There's a lot of mines if you know where to step, not to blow yourself up, and how to, you know, how to get to your goals. And so, you know, financial education is important, and that's our approach at Growth and Wealth. We just really take a consultative approach. We're not, all we're trying to do is help someone understand and navigate through life.
Yes.
And so, you know, there are two basic financial travesties in America today. Number one is we work our entire lives, we get to retirement, and without any type of plan of, you know, how we're going to get through retirement. So
Yeah.
getting to retirement is one thing, but getting through it is another thing. And, you know, one of the biggest things is the tools we use to get to retirement, we can't use those same tools to get us through retirement because now you're in a different point of life, you're out of the accumulation phase, and now
Yeah.
you're in the pay me phase, the pension, whatever, and I need to ensure that lasts me from the day I stop working to the day I retire. And really, it's a travesty because 80% of Americans don't have like a written plan, right? So it's kind of like being having a bow and arrow and trying to hit a target with a blindfold on, right? How can you expect to be successful if you don't know where you're shooting, right?
Yeah.
That pothole analogy, you know, how can you avoid the potholes? How can you navigate around them if you don't know where they are? So one of the things we really focus on at Growth and Wealth is putting together a plan, a financial plan. You know, people have plans, and they may be good plans, but what we've seen over the years when they bring their plans, you know, their financial plans, retirement plans to us, they don't always address the 7 important risks of retirement. There's 7 risks associated with retirement. So I'll just read off some of those. We have a white paper that was published. And it's called the Ultimate Retirement Income Plan, and it addresses the 7 risks of retirement. The first one being longevity, right, which is basically how do I ensure that when I retire I can stay retired and I don't outlive my money. Right.
Y'all, that's the first one. Because if you're like me, I should have already been retired at my young age. Okay.
Hey, it's fun. You can still do it.
And I'm going through it with a job and getting paid every 2 weeks.
So yeah, I mean, longevity. It's one of those things where, before people were retiring at 60, they got your gold watch, and you had what they call the pension, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got that pension, which basically guaranteed you a paycheck from the day you retired to the day you died. Well, pensions are a thing of the past now. Less than 5% of companies offer them. Now they offer 401ks. So, companies no longer take the incentive of caring for you and thanking you for all your years of service with a pension. Now they put it in your hands, and it's up to us to save and put away and all that stuff. So longevity is important, because where people were living to 75, 80 years old before and they had a pension, now people are living to 85, 90, 100, and they're finding that they're running out of money in their 70s. So, it's, which means, you're running out of money. Now you got to go back to work. And let's be real, people, at 65, 70, 80 years old, 85, who in the world wants to go back to work when you should be, enjoying your golden years? Really,
There's always Walmart greeter as an option.
Yes.
There is, but I mean, those are getting scarce too. y'all better watch out, because them greeters ain't there no more.
Our second risk that we address is market risk. Like I said, you use certain tools during the accumulation phase of retirement, being 401ks, IRAs, Roth IRAs, 403bs, etc. And those are the tools that get us there. But when we're actually there, we can't use those tools, because those tools are associated with a lot of market risk, right? When the market goes up, it's great, but when the market goes down, it's not so great. So if you're in retirement and you still have your money in these tools and they're at risk, a market crash would be absolutely catastrophic for you. I mean, you'd be out of money quick. You'd have to go back to work. And unfortunately, the majority of people who have no plan, who are relying on the tools that got them there to get them through retirement, they're just running out of money. Yeah. We're seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, I would say that we're working with a few clients right now where, heading into 2022, the market was pretty strong through COVID in the last few years. And what we've seen, though, is, I mean, even in the last week, the market has just really taken a pretty bad hit. And some of our clients, they're 61, 62 years old, and they've come in and looking at what type of analysis we can put together for them. The issue that we have is with inflation that's going on right now, the problem that we have is 3 to 4 years, which is when they're wanting to retire at age 65, 66 years old. There's a lot of factors and unknowns that if you're in the market risk right now, I mean, we have a client that's lost $28,000 just in the last week. And
wow.
So, and while we're trying to put some plans in place for them, $28,000 for some people is almost 1 year's worth of retirement income, depending on what your goals and objectives are. And so that's really a tough pill to swallow when you've worked for 40 years of your life, and you've now lost, for some of these people, it could be a third of what they already have saved, and so $30,000 almost within a course of a week is a pretty large hit. So what we try to do is mitigate that, stop that, and get some things in some safer vehicles for our clients. But when we're starting to see it, it's real right now. It's absolutely real right now.
And y'all, I know you're like 30,000. What? Because I cry when I lose my $30 to the gas tank. So.
Oh my God.
30.
We get a tank. It's like $120.
If you're losing 30,000, y'all, so pay attention, because they're gonna give you some great stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. Another risk that I think it's important to understand is tax risk. Taxes. There's already a major tax hike that's been approved, and it's going to happen in 2026. So if somebody's thinking, well, I'm not worried about taxes in retirement, you should rethink that strategy, because, we're at almost a $30 trillion deficit if we're not there already. And we only bring in $3 trillion a year in federal income tax. There's a huge gap, and
gap.
how are they going to make up that gap? I mean, Social Security, on their Social Security website, they're not hiding it. They're saying by 2034 the Social Security funds could be depleted, they could be cut in half. So that's a big question mark. So that's fearful for someone like me and you and our children. Is it going to be there? How much is going to be there for us? And so there's a lot of different things associated with with these different tools that have been available for us, but now the economy, inflation, all these different things are affecting them negatively.
Yeah.
And so the only way that they can fix this, guys, is taxes.
Yeah.
Raising taxes. I mean, and the one of the things about like 401k plans, and I love 401k plans, by the way. Any plan where free money, free is free. If you get free money, take the free money, contribute up to your free percent. If they match you up to 6%, put 6% and take it. Do it. But understand that just understand the tax implications that come with that. Because they're giving you a match, legally your company gets to write off 2 times the amount they give you every year. So it's a huge write-off for them. But that transfers a tax liability from them to you. So if you're contributing to a plan that's tax deferred, so you're putting pre-tax money into these plans, just know that at retirement you'll get a knock on the door from our favorite Uncle Sam, and he's going to want his cut. He's going to want his cut on your contribution. He's going to want his cuts on your match, and he's going to want his cut on your earnings. So it's important to understand and kind of know how to get around those things, and what can I put in place today at my age where I can eliminate a lot of that, or help myself from a tax perspective. And that's something we do a lot.
We try to mitigate that. I think one of the biggest issues that we see is with some of our clients that come in, they feel like they're positioned well because, hey, I've got $1.5 million, I've got $750,000 in my 401k. Well, there's a couple of issues with that. One, the market volatility, which we've already talked about. Your $750,000 in the course of 6 months could go down. It could also go up as well, which is why we look at diversification. I mean, we see a lot of upside to 401ks and market structures where money can participate. However, we also do feel that we've got to take some of that growth that we have and let's save that, right? But as you kick the can down the road of tax deferred, at some point in time, as Pete said, you're gonna have to pay those taxes. And when you look at, hey, I've got $1.2 million in there, well, look at that tax bracket you're gonna be in for that.
Yeah.
And when it's time, I mean, you look at it, we don't know what it's gonna be at that time of retirement, but it could be in excess of maybe 50%. Right? So now your 1.2 might really only be $600,000.
Right.
And so what we do is we build in a lot of factors. We look at COLA, cost of living adjustments. We look at all of those factors as we're trying to put in a plan in place. And really, to the point that Pete talked about, which was your pension piece, that's really gone now. And so when you look at like Social Security, if Social Security is around, and I hope it is because we've all paid into it for many years, but when we look at that, we really want that to kind of be, the icing on the top, right? The cherry on top, the whipped cream. We don't want to have that as the main source of what we're living on in our retirement years. There's not enough money in there to live on really well in retirement years. So we want to look at that as just the extra money, the fun money, the grandkid money, or whatever. But we want to help people get there to achieve their goals without making that as their baseline. And that's what a lot of people are retiring on right now, because it is around. But the reality is that a lot of people are still having to do part-time jobs. There's a lot of people in their 60s and 70s right now that are Uber and Lyft because they're needing a side hustle just as well as the rest of us need a side hustle out there, right? So those are just some things to think about, is that tax piece can really hit you hard, and your $1 million isn't real. It's probably half that.
Yeah.
So
That's a great. That's
In
a
the
great
comments, someone said two times the write-off for companies. They're like, wow.
2 times.
Yeah.
Yep, they get to write off 2 times.
You better ask for a raise, somebody. Come on.
So it's just a little bit of education on like the 401k. It was developed in the late 1970s by Ted Benna. It was he came across it on accident. 401k is actually a tax code that shows them how to tax you. So he figured a way to, hey, let's make this our savings account for employees, and he presented it to corporations and said, hey, look, instead of giving them a pension, you can give them a match, get a huge write-off, and you don't have to pay them a salary anymore from the day they retire to the day they die. So corporations were all on board. And then the IRS was on board because the IRS says, hey, look, don't pay taxes today on your money when we know what they are,
Right.
and they're kind of still at a low. Pay them tomorrow, 20 years, 30 years down the road when we have no idea how high they're going to be. And, instead of paying taxes on your penny seed that you're contributing today, you're going to be forced to pay taxes on your $1 million harvest at retirement. And, so Wall Street loved the idea of 401ks because, they, assets under management, right? These 401k, Fidelity, Merrill Lynch, Voya, these companies, Edward Jones, these companies are charging you fees from a percent to 2% a year just to manage your money. And, you've never met these people. You've never, got to ask questions about your plan, but yet you're paying them a 2%. So if you had $500,000 in your 401k, every year you're paying $10,000 to somebody you've never met in a fee. And so that's $800 coming out of your nest egg every month. So there's a lot of different pieces, moving pieces to the 401k, and we're experts. We do a great educational piece. If you were just like, hey, I just want to understand how my 401k works, want to understand taxation and before, pre-tax, after tax, reach out. That's what we're here for. But yeah, there's all these different, aspects to look at. And, lastly, the other risk I'll mention is, I said there were 7, but, really there's 4 that we kind of hone in on, is inflation. Now, I know everyone knows what that means because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but, gas is a lot more expensive than it was. That's inflation.
Yes.
A loaf of bread, before you used to be able to go to the store with $100 and fill a grocery basket. Well, now you get a full grocery cart. Well, now you're holding one of those grocery baskets, and that's $100.
Y'all, you used to be able to get an OSB sheet for $9, and now you're paying like $64.
Home improvement talk. I like
Home improvement, come on.
talk.
And we know y'all out there with your projects, DIYers, everybody, okay? Those that go on this Pinterest and think we can master everything and get into the lumber store and we're like, just kidding, let me hire somebody. But even hiring somebody, it's expensive.
It is. We just went to, I was going to say the market. How old do I sound? But my wife and I, we went to the market just a few days ago. And here in Colorado, I would say within probably 3 or 4 months ago, you could have got a gallon of milk for like $2.99, $3.49, right? If you had a Supers card, right? The Kroger card for those of you that are maybe in other parts of the country. But now, like, we just paid $5.50 for 1 gallon of milk. And when you have 5 kids, you realize that that's a huge problem. 5 dozen eggs, that was normally like $8, $9 maybe. Sam's Club, it was like $6 at one point. We just paid $16, and my wife just went back last night and said they're at $17.99.
It's crazy.
So there are a lot. We're starting to see it, and it's crazy to think that there's different levers that are going to be pulled at different times. And at some point in time, we're going to look back and say all the levers have been pulled, and everything is on the rise. And so that's how inflation works: is it kind of hits different factors. The CPI out there hits different areas at different times, and so it's interesting to see. But as we start to see it unravel, the biggest thing that we want to do is get ahead of it, and that's what we try to do, and we try to educate is how can we get ahead of this, because there's no way to stop it. So we just have to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're here to hopefully help anybody do. Just give us a call. We've got our website here, but you can give us a call and we'll plug that at the end of our number. And we are licensed, so we can help you in all states. So I heard New York, I heard Michigan. If you are from California, I'm sorry, but we are here to help you. And you guys know too, because all of you are moving to Colorado.
We got Chi-Town in the house. Come on,
Okay.
guys. We got
All right.
everybody. We are on here national.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we're here to help. So this isn't just to hear. We can go anywhere within the 50. So definitely reach out. So.
Definitely.
And are you guys licensed nationally?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so those of you who are on the airwaves, maybe not those of you who are listening live, but I know those of you who are on the airwaves, international, we have a lot of people on here from Bangladesh, Thailand, we have South Africa, we have tons of people from all over. So you can tune in. We'll have the numbers, so you could go onto the actual website on Ignite with Melissa and KUHSdenver.com. And as you know, I always link everything in there, so you guys will be able to get connected with Houston and Peter. So those who are national, you can get connected as well. And Texas just jumped in the house.
What's
okay,
up, Texas? Okay.
So all over. So guys, this is for everyone, all 50 states and national, local, everywhere, global. We are here to help you out. And I'm going to get sidetracked real quick,
Okay.
and I'm going to just throw that in there, y'all. You better start making some coupon friends. Come on. Because when the pandemic hit, who had all the tissue paper besides the ones who, were hoarding it? Those couponers. They had the toilet paper, they had the laundry soap, they had everything. So make yourself a couponer friend, okay?
So the last risk that I'll hit on is a risk that most people don't consider, right? It's a long-term care risk, right? The risk of getting sick in your 70s, in your 80s, heart attack, cancer, stroke, diabetes, some of the major ones, having to go into, God forbid, hospice, or having to have nursing care at home. You can't complete 2 of the 6 or 7 daily duties like toileting and feeding yourself. People, in these plans that we've looked at, they're okay plans, but they're not the ultimate plan because they don't cover all these risks. So long-term care is something we take a look at. You don't want to be having a wonderful retirement. You're getting your $8,000 a month after taxes, and you're living your golden years, the best year, and then all of a sudden, God forbid, you get a sickness, you have a heart attack, something, and now you're taking that money to subsidize for your hospital bills. And now you're short. So it's another thing we look at in our ultimate retirement plan is covering the risk of long-term care and figuring that out. And we have a plethora of tools, products. We're not here to talk about products or tools or companies. We're just here to say that, look, Benjamin Franklin said it best. He said, a fail to plan is a plan to fail. Nobody plans to fail.
Nobody.
They just fail to plan.
Yep.
We go through life in our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, and we're so caught up in everyday family, loved ones, children, sports, food, bills, work, you name it. It's there, just keeping us busy. But you got to take a time and sit back and say, hey, look, if I don't understand how I'm going to get there, how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
I can ignore it all I want, but the more I wait, the more I'm going to have to save for it. The more I wait, the more I'm going to have to put down every month to get there. And we want to avoid that stuff. And how we avoid it is, sitting down with a financial professional immediately and, just addressing these 7 risks and getting a plan put together, so you know that, when you hit 65, it's not, can I retire?
Right.
Or when can I retire? It's, I'm done hanging up my hat, and I'm going to go chill in Cancun with a Bud Light or whatever you drink for the week.
Cancun Bud Light?
I like Bud Light.
I don't know.
I'm thinking Hawaii, pineapple,
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Okay, fine.
Okay.
The leaves.
Corona.
Oh my goodness.
What's that other beer?
Modelo?
Modelo. Honestly, I don't know my beer.
Oh my goodness.
No, he's trying to act like it because he got put on blast. So he's like, oh, let me just pretend. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, Bud Light, it's maybe water for some of you, but it's beer for me.
Oh my goodness.
A Mountain Dew on the rocks. I don't know. We'll see.
Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I mean, on retirement piece, I think the critical piece to it is when the younger we are, the more intimidating it seems. And it's kind of like, it's overwhelming, right? I would say a lot of just friends or people who come in contact with me and they're like, you know, what is it that you do? And I explain, the first question I get is, what about crypto? What about Bitcoin? What about Luna? What about, I mean, all of these things, right? There's so many different things out there. And while those are fun and they're very volatile, you want to talk about market risk, that's super risky. However, a lot of money can be generated, but equally a lot of money can be lost. And so I think what's important is we just look at the overall amount of money that we have and how much do we want to put in risky markets, whether it's, you know, stock market driven or it's crypto driven. That's fine. Let it go. But then just make sure you take some time to look at how much money do we want to put into an investment vehicle where, you know, really you should see your investments, if you have them in any type of market structure, you should be seeing your investments double every 7 years. And so I challenge those of you that are out there, if you can't say that over the 7 years, especially with the last few years that we've had, I mean, the market's been insane. And if you can't look at your portfolio today and say, yes, it's doubled over the last 7 years, well, then we need to relook at what it is that that you have going on. And that's what we specialize in. And again, it's no cost to you guys. We're just here to help out and see if we can maybe pivot some things or maybe consider something different. But if you're not doubling every 7 years, then you need to relook at your investment allocation. So
that's a great point.
Yeah. And then I think to that point though, it's a good segue into one of the other pieces. Are you good with me to go ahead and transition over?
Let me say one.
Okay,
To Houston's point about diversification, and that there are tools out there that you know, they're equivalent to 401ks. They're a lot more like a Roth IRA, where a Roth IRA, basically you're putting after-tax money into that account, earnings and gains, it's tax-free, which is great. Only issue is it's volatile because the Roth IRAs are tied to the market. And if you make too much money, you don't qualify for one, and you can only put like $5,500 a year, I think, into one of those. So, but there are tools out there for your listening audience that, you know, if from a diversification standpoint, you know, have your Wall Street casino stuff, you know, have your gambling money, your 401ks, your Roth IRAs, but you should also, as part of your portfolio, look to add something that's gives you the same upside as the market, but eliminates a lot of the downside. You know, earning an average of 6 to 8% is what these tools do, but they really, you know, you get all the upsides of the market, but when the market goes down, your money is guaranteed safe and locks in, no risk. A lot less fees. You know, there's no assets under management. You're not paying someone 2% to manage these type of things. So there are a lot of things out there that are beneficial for you and your children. Like we were talking about your boys and and those kind of things. I mean, so, you know, I just wanted to throw it out there. You know, next we're going to go into the our second travesty, which is the, you know, so you get all the way through life, you get all the way through retirement, and maybe you've got something left over to leave behind for your loved ones, but without the proper planning, you know, the court system gets to decide what to do with your money, and they can keep it from your family from, you know, 6 months to 4 years, depending on the probate process, and a lot of times the attorneys get to eat a lot of that. So Houston's going to go into right now the importance of, you know, proper estate planning.
Yeah, so what are the ages of your boys?
So mine's 18 and 14.
18 and 14, okay, all right. So, yeah, so to that point, I asked that question because I'll get there, but I just want to make sure that I understand the age. So as we try to stay in front of the wealth transfer, right? Meaning we want to have a plan in place for all of our clients. So really what we want to do is create this umbrella of protection. And there's a lot of investment pieces, which is what we just talked about, which can really put your money in a place where not even the IRS has access to it, which might sound crazy. And we're not talking about tax evasion. We are about to have church. Yeah, we're not talking tax evasion, but what we're talking about is investment vehicles in which your money can be protected. So if you're a business owner out there, you know, if you've ever thought, hey, I might have litigation coming my way, or I might be open to risk because of something, right? We have vehicles to help get your money into places where liens and bankruptcy, it cannot be touched, okay? So again, what we're trying to do is create this umbrella of protection over your complete estate. And one of the important ways that we do that is with a proper estate plan. And a lot of people say, well, what is a proper estate plan? Well, a proper estate plan is a combination of both a will and a trust in which protects all of your assets and allows all of your assets to be protected from the courts. And I know it sounds crazy that we've got to say that, but the reason why we do that is because the courts will get involved, as Peter said and alluded to, that if for some reason you were to pass away today and you don't have a properly funded trust, which I'll get into in a second, it means that the courts can get involved, more than likely will get involved, and what happens at that point is fees happen, court fees happen, and the next thing you know, anywhere from 10 to 20% of your overall value of your estate goes to the state that you live in, because it's wrapped up in a process called probate. Okay, so just some national statistic numbers to share with you. Less than 50%, right around 49% of all Americans have a will. All right, and in the day of age where people can just jump online and type in something or go to DaveRamsey.com or LegalZoom, the problem with that will is it's not properly worded at times, number one. Number two, it can segue into a trust, but that gets confusing because most of them out there say the caution is it's not recognized in all states, and it's very confusing. And so a lot of times people are like, well, I have a will and I'm good. Well, you're really not, because of the 50% of people who have a will, the issue is a lot of times it's outdated. It's the living will means that you need to kind of be plugging information in it as life changes, as your kids get older, different things like that. So a will is basically a wish list. A trust is basically what tells the wish list how things are to operate, how you allocate the proper assets through that will. So the will is just, here's what I kind of want to happen, but the trust is what exercises all of your wishes without the courts getting involved. And that's the biggest difference. And so of trusts that are out there, roughly less than, I think it's 20% of all trusts are properly funded. And so a lot of people think, well, funded, that's going to cost me money. It's not that. What it is it's taking your assets and shifting them into your trust. Therefore, there's no confusion on what's going to happen with this property, what's going to happen with my favorite car, what's going to happen with any of these things, gold coins, whatever. You're taking all of your assets and putting them into your trust, and then the courts will not get involved. So that's really what a living will and trust does. Now, a couple of call-outs with that, and what's important to understand is that within a trust, you are avoiding the probate, right, which is the state getting involved in putting in their plan and not yours. And that's the thing is if any of you are listening have children, even if you're renting an apartment but you have children, you need to have a will and trust. Immediately once you have kids, or if you have property before children, whichever one of those triggering points happen, so you can be in your 20s, right? Your 30s, whatever that, you need to look at getting into a will and trust. And so our piece is we've seen an area where a lot of people haven't put in that plan aside from retirement, a plan of what's going to happen to my children should something happen to me. And so I think that's the challenge that when I meet with people is, we had lunch just with a gentleman right before we got here, and I think he's over 50, and he's got a couple
51.
of kids. Yeah, 51. He's got a couple of children, and I respect the heck out of him because he's a great businessman. But I asked him, I said, do you have a will and trust in place? We have nothing. I said, what happens to you and your wife? God forbid you go on vacation. What happens to your kids? Well, I don't know. And so those are the things that through a trust, believe it or not, it's overarching. We address all of the things that are so important to a family. And a lot of people think it's difficult or I don't understand it. It's overwhelming. It's really not. And so that's what we take pride in, is really just breaking it up into different chunks. And we really just focus in on what's important to you immediately within this. And then when we can kind of get to the end and wrap it all up with a pretty bow, that you are feeling really good about no matter what happens, whether you have kids or you don't have kids, what happens to your pets. I mean, there's all of those things that we can address.
Yeah.
What happens to your RV? What happens to your 2 investment properties? What happens? We address all of that. And so that's what's great about having a living will and trust, is because living means that you're constantly going to need to change it. And I think one of the big call-outs is, generally speaking, here I can only speak for the state of Colorado, and understand that if it's a bigger state, usually the numbers are a little bit higher. But in the state of Colorado, if you go to an attorney to have them draft up and you work with them, the time allocation is roughly, that goes into dollar amounts. It works out between $3,000 and $3,500 to have a will and trust. But it's not funded. And so that's one of the big issues, which is they say, hey, listen, we want to help you get your will and trust, and you're going to pay that amount. If you live in California, it's probably over 4. In New York, it's probably over 4. But what they haven't done is they still haven't funded it, which means, generally speaking, when you have a lot of money, people come out from everywhere if you were to pass away, right? And it's inevitable. We're all going to go at some point in time. But what I'm talking about is, let's get stuff in there now, right? Let's figure out how we can protect things now, because we're never guaranteed another day. We always feel invincible in our 30s and 40s. And then you get up one day and you're 45 and it hurts when you get out of bed, right? Darn it. So it's all, but as we start to get older, you don't feel invincible, but you still feel like nothing's going to happen to you. And when it does, if we don't have the plan in place, the issue that we have is families will fight. People will come out from everywhere and try to stake claim to everything. And when you have a trust, it avoids all of that. But you have to have it funded. And that's what we specialize in, is your will, your trust, and funding it properly. Because if it's not funded accordingly, then you still are open to possibly go through probate.
Yeah.
So an attorney, right? So they'll charge you that $3,000, $3,500. But, and this isn't a shot in, if you're an attorney listening, I think you would 100% agree with me. I'm not taking a shot at you, but the reason why they don't want to fund it is because once you draft it up, the attorney's information of who drafted it up is listed on the documents. Well, if you haven't put all of your assets in there, one, they've made the fee for creating your will and trust, but they didn't fund it, which then means that it's open for probate, and the family's going to have to seek legal counsel. Well, who are they going to go to? They're going to go to whoever's on the will and trust, and they're going to fight on behalf of the family, and so there's going to be their court fees associated. And so that's kind of the piece, is most attorneys do not help fund the trust, because in essence they're kind of building a return business, right? They're making you feel good, and that's great, because there's some good things in a trust that doesn't encompass the funding, like durable power of attorney, your healthcare directives, guardianship. Like, there's a lot of things within a trust that's absolutely critical. And whether you have it funded or not, it addresses those things. But generally speaking, a lot of attorneys aren't going to do it because they want a return client.
Yeah.
So.
And y'all, we know that you don't want Nancy next door taking care of your dog when she's got cats, okay? So you gotta take care of yourself. And let me just tell you, I'm gonna throw it in right here, because y'all know I don't just validate for anybody. But they give you so much information, and I'm telling you, like I told you guys in the post earlier this week, it is so educational and learning every single thing. So once I add in all the links, call them, because I don't know if you guys do free consultations.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. For these listeners, we're going to be doing free consultations.
Okay, so I just threw that out there. See, so
reference
y'all,
a show and definitely.
if you are from Ignite, call them, let them know you're from Ignite with Melissa. But they give you so much information, guys. You should be paying for it anyway. It is so educational and so informal, and they literally break down everything. Like, I went home, I remember, and I was like, wow, like, I really need to get, like, all this together. Half of this stuff I never even understood, because people never broke it down for me. And this is what I love about these guys, is because they actually sit there, listen to you, will answer your questions for you, and break it down the easiest way that you can understand. And I know for me, like, I'm a visual learner, so it's hard for me to understand things that are just coming at me with words and everything. And Peter just, like, broke everything down for me, and I was like, wow, got it, cool. I wish someone would have did that when I was like 19, 20 years old, and I would have been all over it. So when I say get with them, you guys should totally get with them, because it'll change, especially those of you that have kids. And I know, like we talked about with my kids and doing their fun, if you have kids, it's great. There's a lot of great benefits there that set up your children. And if you're like me, I'm someone who just blows my money, right? Let's be real. I'm like, I'm going to live now, because when I'm older, who can move? Who can go somewhere and enjoy? I know my body's going to be, like, over it. But there's a lot of great things for your children. And I know, like, for myself, like, I want to make sure my kids have stuff. And so for those of you now, especially if you have younger kids, you're going to benefit so much by everything that's put in, even if you have older kids,
Right.
whatever age. It's an awesome opportunity, awesome thing, and you're dealing directly with them. And like they said, you don't have to go with somebody like on the computer. So let me tell you about Miss Merrill, okay? I dealt with Miss Merrill years ago. Come on, if she's listening out there, Miss Lynch, okay? I'm just saying. And she lynched me pretty hard, and I'm just saying. I got thrown in that tax bracket that you don't want to get thrown into, so.
They call that the lynch bracket, baby.
Yeah. Let me tell you, your girl, she got taken away, and I was like, no more Mountain Dews for like 2 years. Okay?
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas, though.
I know.
I'm getting a Mountain Dew.
I'm trying to break off, y'all. I'm trying to.
No, I think, Melissa, I think that's a great call out, though, is, the kid piece to it. I mean, that specifically hits home with you, and the conversation you had with Peter is a lot of times we don't feel like there's enough money out there to put into some type of vehicle for our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And really for us, we take a look at what are your expenses, what do you have going on, and if there is room in there, a lot of times it's just we've got to shift things a little bit, but creating something for your children is absolutely important. But we have many ways to do that. It's not just creating an investment fund or an investment portfolio for them specifically. A lot of times it's what can we do with the growth of what you have now.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, what we like to do is create an inheritance for once we're not here, right? We want to really leave some generational wealth, and the only way that we can do that is first through education, right? If I were the same as you at 19, if I would have known what to do with my money from 19 to 29, like, I don't know that I would be here right now. I'd already be on the beach, right? But I just didn't know. And so the nice thing is that today is the day that you know if you didn't. And so if you reach out to us, we want to help you, but really we want to help your children. And through, if we shift back to the trust real quick and getting into guardianship, the gentleman we met with today has nothing established for guardianship. And the thing that's really difficult about that is people think that, hey, I have a life insurance policy, so I left the money to my best friend, he's the beneficiary, and he'll just take over my kids. Well, the courts may see that if that's what your best friend wants to do, but if you don't have guardianship established, your kids are immediately going to be placed into, I don't want to say foster care, but in care of the state in which you live. And your children are going to have to go through court, and they're going to have to hear what are the children, what do the children want, what does the family want, what does the friends want, and that can also create areas of contention and fighting, especially if you've got, like on my side of the family, I got my sister, and then on my wife's side of the family, she's got a brother, and they both want our kid. Like, it can become just a mess.
Yeah.
And really, what we want to do is we want to alleviate our children going through all of that, let alone the extension of our families. And so if we have it clearly defined where our children are to go and who is to take care of them, it just puts you so much more at ease. And I think a lot of people, when we talk about this, are like, you know what, it's kind of kept me up at night at times, or I've really thought about it. I need to know what to do, but I just don't know what to do. And because it becomes so daunting, they're like, oh, do I got to go to court? Who do I contact? And no, you don't need to do all of that. If you just get a will and trust in place, and even if you don't do it through us, just get one in place. Your family needs it, and it's so important. The last piece to it is, there's so much more to it, but the one I really want to call out is the durable power of attorney. And what's important with the durable power of attorney is, as we get older, and even at this age, if something were to happen to me, well, through HIPAA laws and whatnot, if you don't have that established of who is to step in through your durable power of attorney and medical and advanced directives, then if you haven't had the conversation with your wife or family members, what is to happen to me if I got in an accident, or if I am in a coma? At what point in time, do I want to go, right? And then you sometimes have families, again, fighting over that, right? No, he's going to come back after 10 years. He's going to come back.
Yeah.
And those are a lot of conversations, which I know is difficult. I know those are hard conversations, but they're real, because what we do is we pass the burden on to others if we don't take care of it right now.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing we want. We don't want our children and our spouses and everybody else. And so the next piece to it is incapacitation. So let's say, as older parents, and those of you listening or might be at a point where, hey, I really need to get a durable power of attorney established, because once I'm not able to make decisions, I'm working with 2 clients right now where their parents are Alzheimer's right now, and so they didn't get the trust fully in place. And so the issue that we have is now they're like, well, we've got to get conservatorship, and the courts have to appoint that. But if they had the durable power of attorney within a trust, it stays within family matters and not a public matter. And so now the court's got to step in. They've got to assign whoever's going to take care of the parents. And the issue that we have with that is that the courts get involved. They'll make whoever that they assign to the conservatorship to take care of them during incapacitation or till the end of their life. And then they've got to produce statements. They've got to go to court every 6 months or every year, produce where the money was spent, why it was spent. But if you actually had a durable power of attorney within your trust in place, our documents, state regulated documents, will cover all of that, and you don't have to take it to a public matter. So there's just so many things that a trust addresses. But if you have young kids, it's guardianship of your kids. If you're getting older, it's what happens to me. Or if you have parents that you're like, Mom, Dad, you guys really need to get this going before you get to a point where the courts deem you not mentally capable of getting a trust, just get one going. And if we're the resource, please come here. If you want to go somebody else local, wherever you're at, that's fine. But again, we can do it for all states. Right? Yeah, just take action. That's all that we ask, because the courts are taking money. It's creating drama for your families, and just get your families taken care of. So there's a lot more to it, but I just really wanted to address the trust. We do investment pieces, but the number one question I have is, do you have a will? Do you have a trust? And if you don't, then that's the first thing that I try to do.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes, do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Y'all, it's like, do you have a vision? Did you write it down and make it plain? Come on.
That's right.
You ain't going nowhere.
Well.
So if I can add, if I can just say that, everybody listening and Americans out there, we work hard our whole lives, right? We work hard for our money, but a lot of times our money doesn't work hard for us. right? Inflation, over 8%, up from 3% in a year, scary. So, our call to action today would be, if anyone out there wants to understand the 7 risks of retirement, how to navigate around them, if anyone wants to understand estate planning, go to our website, www.growthandwealth.com, provide some basic information. We'll respond back to you with a time where we can sit down, help you understand it, navigate through these things, and we'll share with you the concept of our ultimate retirement plan and the concept of the ultimate estate plan.
And y'all, I'm going to just throw this out there again, because if you have kids, and I just say this because I have kids of my own, I know y'all are wasting $25 a week on Starbucks, Dutch Bros, whatever it is, $100 a month. Just, you see no return of investment on there, right? Unless just your bank account rolling out. What greater way than to invest like $100 or more in your children, and it be longevity, going out there, investing in your kids, investing in somewhere that you know is going to get the return of investment of your money, right? And so I just say that because for those of you that have kids, it is an amazing thing, and you just got to get with these guys right here, because that's all I'm going to say. You just got to call.
We appreciate that. I was going to also say, too, so for local, if you're local, or toll-free number, we don't have, so you just have to pay. Does anybody pay long distance anymore? I mean,
only if they're national, I think. Only.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So our phone number is area code 303-775-6051. Again, 303-775-6051. And you can also, again, www.growthandwealth.com. Again, growth and is spelled out, wealth.com. And for listeners as well, so one, we're doing free consultations, no problem. In addition to that, for the listeners, you have to mention Ignite. You can also do an info capture sheet on our website as well, so whether you call us or just fill out information online. I had mentioned what the average cost of a full entire estate plan is nationally or within Colorado. For the listeners here today, we're going to be like less than a third of that. I mean, it's less than a third for the listeners here, and that can vary just depending upon how detailed the estate needs to be. But in general, we're not going to bill you by the hour. It's none of that. It's about the family. It's about what you guys have. And so for listeners here today, it's going to be less than a third of what general estate planning would cost you with an attorney.
And if you guys are filling it out online, when you put Ignite with Melissa, don't forget, even when you're calling in, to say that you heard from Ignite with Melissa, and also add in there, go Broncos. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, y'all. I'm just saying.
Broncos is my set. Hey, if the Raiders are playing the Broncos, I got to go with my Raiders. But if the Broncos are playing anybody but the Raiders, hey, Broncos all day, every day, guys.
That's oil and water. That doesn't even make sense. How can your second favorite team be the Broncos?
Because I'm born and raised in Colorado. I'm a true blue.
He talks about growth and wealth, but he's been in the